Hello and welcome to the program. This is a show about real people living everyday lives in extraordinary and sometimes very challenging circumstances. I'm Ashley Sorko and today we're asking what it's like being transgender. Today I'm going to be speaking to Melissa, who has taken the transgender journey in the hope that we can break down some of the myths and stigma attached. Melissa is a proud transgender woman and is an advocate for making life better for trans people in the future, a role which she is very proud of. Hi Melissa, welcome to the program.
Hi Ashley.
So tell me, what is the hardest thing about living as a transgender?
The hardest thing living as a transgender person probably is in the workplace, dealing with other people, whether they'll accept you or not, and you have to develop a thick skin and talk to people for some of the questions you might get. And also in society, just some of the looks you'll get from people, the stares from people, the treatment from others.
So you mentioned questions in the workplace. What sort of questions
Just
do you
things
get
that,
asked?
when I first transitioned, just some of the questions I got asked that necessarily would be what I considered to be inappropriate, just around, say, which I answered because I was trying to educate people as well. However, it's things around like, will you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend? Will you have a B cup or a C cup? You know, things you sort of wouldn't ask your best friend or your mate's wife.
Yeah.
And I guess other questions around the effects of hormones on my sexual function.
Right.
Things like that. So
Yeah.
they're sort of things that are quite challenging, which you can answer, but really go Google them.
Yeah. Is it true that transgender people are the most at-risk group in the LGBTQI community of suicide, depression and mental health issues?
Yes, it is. Transgender people have the highest rates of suicide in the LGBTQI community, 3 times higher than other groups within that community. A lot of us have more ideas of suicide and suicidation compared to others.
Right.
And a lot of us have more issues around mental health than a lot of other people do in the LGBTQI community.
Yep.
And a lot of people struggle around this to reach out for support to either Beyond Blue or other organisations, or where to look, especially in rural communities. It's harder for transgender people to know where to go or necessarily know if the psychologist will understand the issues they're going through.
Yeah, of course.
So it's quite an important issue that needs to be looked at in the future, and to raise more awareness around it and invest more money in this area.
So you're starting a foundation to educate employers, organisations and schools on gender identity. How do you feel that's going to make a positive impact on society in general?
I feel it'll make a positive impact on society in general because it will start to raise awareness around gender identity and around transgender people, so that employers, schools, organisations begin to understand transgender people and realise that they're not a hell of a lot different to you and everyone else in the world, and that they're valuable people. And if they just recognise that gender identity is a real thing and not fictitious, it's just not a man in a dress, so to speak,
Yes.
coming to work. It was one day coming to work as Aaron, like myself, and then coming to work as Melissa. So if they recognise that I'm still a person, it's just the only thing that's different about me is that I'm now coming to work as a female, and that I can still be valuable. So in the workplace, so if employers understand that and grasp that and have procedures, policies in place around that, or even just guidelines around that, then that will have a positive impact on society, because transgender people will feel as though they can participate in society
And be accepted.
and be
Yes,
valuable.
definitely.
Yeah.
Do you think that would encourage more transgender people to come out as transgender and to make that step?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think people, if they started to see employers took the issue seriously and society was a bit more forgiving and accepting of them, then they would feel as though they could come out and not have to live part-time. Some people may choose to live part-time, but there may be some that don't. So if they can see that things are changing, it's going to be easier for them to get work, and it's not going to be an issue because they're transgender, then they will.
Yeah, free to be themselves.
Free to be themselves, yeah.
We approached a few women's clothing stores to ask if we could film in their shops, and they agreed until we told them that we were filming transgender issues. Do you encounter that kind of hostility frequently while you're shopping?
Not as frequently as you would think, actually. In fact, I find most stores are pretty good in terms of when I go in there to buy clothes, try them on. It's just the odd individual that you'll get occasionally. In a big store like Myer, occasionally you'll get someone that's obviously busy selling and doesn't want to deal with a transgender person.
Yeah.
And it could just be that individual themselves, not the organisation. So overall, it's pretty good in terms of going in and buying clothes and makeup. I find Q and Review are really friendly in terms of that. So that's really important for transgender people.
That's great, yeah.
Because it's hard, obviously, if you can't go into a store, or you go into a store and you feel uncomfortable.
Yes.
And obviously, if you feel uncomfortable, you may just walk out straight away and not buy any clothes. And you obviously want to buy clothes.
Yes.
Right? And if I can go into a store and do that comfortably without people looking at me or the staff looking at me, then that's really important.
Do you think the current debate about marriage equality is having a negative effect on the transgender community?
I don't think it is, but there might be some people in the transgender community that are same-sex relationships, so it still has an effect on our mental health seeing that sort of debate, because people just want it done, like not have a plebiscite, just allow it to happen so people can live in their relationships with their partner. There's enough hurdles we have to go over and go through in terms of our identity and changing our identity, and then the ridiculous situation of where I'm a female by the government standard, but the Victorian government on my change of name certificate still says that I'm a male even though I've got a female name. So if they could sort out all those laws, it would make it better for me as well if I find a partner and want to marry them. Like, I don't have to worry about all those sort of going through all the hoops, and sort of I guess you sort of think about it a lot, that why isn't it happening, and it plays on your mind with your mental health. Like, and if you do have a transgender partner as well, then that you can't be open in society, that you are accepted. Yeah, exactly. So hopefully it'll get done.
Do you have issues using female restrooms?
Generally I don't have issues, but I can see when you go in as a patron of a club, whether it be at a racing club or just at a shopping centre, some women sort of look at you funny and feel uncomfortable with you, and if they've got their kids there for whatever reason, they just grab the kid. So I don't think people necessarily understand transgender people from that point of view. They may once again think it's just a man in a dress and think, oh, there's a pedophile in the female toilets.
Right.
How can it be allowed?
Yeah.
And I guess there is a difference between a transgender female going to the toilets rather than just some guy dressed in a garbage bag or a wedding dress on the bloke's day out of the races going in the female toilet. That shouldn't be allowed. So I can understand people's concerns and funny looks. So you just...
And how about at work?
At work, initially it was an issue with me, going to be using the female toilets, that some people feel uncomfortable about it, and around their religious, maybe because of their religious or cultural backgrounds. So obviously now that's not so much of an issue.
Tell me about the work you've done to get acceptance for trans people at the Melbourne and Victoria racing clubs.
The work I've got done there at the racing clubs is get a gender identity policy introduced at both racing clubs. I did it first at the Victoria Racing Club. As part of the anti-discrimination policy there, it's now got gender identity, which is on their vision and values page, and it's got a link to gender identity frequently asked questions. So that's important for those other patrons or members that attend Victoria Racing Club, that they can see what it actually is, and if they can't complain about it, or they can say and look at me funny and say that's a man in the dress or it shouldn't be allowed. However, they can't ring up and complain to management. If they do, they can just point them to the website and say, well, we can't discriminate against transgender people, and people who have a gender identity which is different to that assigned at birth.
I heard you did fashions on the field recently. How did that go?
Yeah, that was good. It was a really fun experience to do. It was exciting, also nerve-wracking at the same time. Standing up on the stage, everyone's looking at you and you don't know where to look.
Yeah. Did you have to do a little stride?
little stride,
walk, yeah.
little walk. It was fun to do. And, I don't know whether my outfit was the right outfit, but it's still a good experience to do.
So tell me about your family's reaction when you told them you were transgender.
Well, when I told my family, told my parents, Dad thought about it, and after a while he accepted it. Mum's told me she respects my decision but doesn't necessarily accept it. And when I went home for my dad's funeral, I told some of my family. One of my cousins, when I started to explain about gender identity, just turned around and walked off, didn't listen. Other family members said, I know someone who's was Bob and now is Kathy sort of thing. So they sort of were okay with it. And one of my other cousins got quite a shock.
Really?
Yeah, he was like, okay.
Yeah.
So it was really a mixed reaction from family members. Some were supportive, some sort of didn't know how to react or weren't supportive. So sort of challenging to deal with as well as dealing with the funeral and Dad's death.
Yeah, of course. Well, at least he accepted your coming out as a transgender before he died. That must have meant so much to you.
Yeah, it did. And it's a shame, unfortunately, he never actually saw me as Melissa. So it's sort of hopefully up above he can see me. So.
Yeah, definitely. When did you first realise that you were a female?
Well, looking back on my life, I realised it was sort of different from child. I was always awkward and shy and bullied at school when I was younger. And as a teenager, I started wearing mum's clothing. And like a lot of, not all, but some transgender people tried to bury it, not understanding, because I felt awkward and shy around people, and I never felt comfortable using the male toilets.
Right.
And as an adult coming to Melbourne after leaving Auckland, I was able to start going out as a female and realise obviously that's my identity, more emotional and sensitive like females are, want to be around the girls.
So it was a long journey of discovery.
It is.
Yourself as well, yeah.
Myself, discovering who you are, figuring out your style as a female, figuring out what you want to do, and figuring out when I was going to transition and if you are going to transition or live part-time. And then
Is that a big decision in itself to make?
It is. It's a huge decision because people, like I said before, you lose your family, your friends potentially. You might even lose your job or cut your job choices in half. But if you make that decision and live your life, you want the way you should and the way you're meant to, then that's great.
It must be freeing. You must feel so liberated being able to live as you enjoy living.
I do. I feel great being able to be true to myself and live true to myself and walk down the street and be myself.
So are you excited about the future and looking forward to the next chapter of your life?
Yes, I am. Obviously, my life has changed a lot in the last 6 months, doing more work in social media and media around raising awareness and starting to do public speaking. And I'm excited that I can start a foundation to help people in my community, which will make it better for future generations. And obviously, on a personal level, I'm growing in my confidence and as a person, as an individual.
Wonderful.
And I look forward to the day actually meeting someone like a partner and that I can marry and be with. So that's exciting to look forward to. And that for future transgender people that things will be better. And it also means they can live their lives truly and integrate into society. And I just want them to be able to live their lives truly and be true to themselves like I am and want to do.
This has been Melissa's story, and her final message is...
just be true to yourself.